National security is the priority. And Mr. President, let me tell you, I want to make reference, as stated by our Prime Minister in the House of Representatives, Senator Skeffrey. I want you to listen carefully. The next phase of our operations is not so much to go and detain the cornermen. The next phase of the operation is to use the space created, the networks that we have uprooted to get the mastermind and kingpins. We are in a different phase, and you will start to see the impacts in months to come. Mr. President, in the presentation in the lower house, the Prime Minister mentioned that to date there is a 26% reduction in the incidence of murder and shooting in the St. Catherine North Division over the same period last year. The people of St. Catherine are good, decent people who deserve the best. Listen to Senator Morrison. She's saying it. She's on the ground. We are not hovering up there. And I said it, Mr. President, let me take off my glasses for this one and open my suit. In the last submission I made in this house, in this honorable house, I welcomed my colleagues. I said, come with me, let us walk through the state of emergency and the zones of special operations. I said, come out of your seat, get out of the AC, let's go on the ground. Mr. President, I am on the ground. Our star girl is on the ground. We are all over. We're not coming here to tell you what we think. We're coming here to tell you what we know, because we're listening to the people. We're listening to the people. My grandmother said, Senator Brown, that you have 2 ears and 1 mouth for a reason. And this government has made sure that we are making the decisions that are responsible for our people. I mentioned also that when it comes on to put in our money where our mouth is, over 500 vehicles, 528 vehicles today have been purchased for the Ministry of National Security. More than $1 billion has been used to increase the mobility in this country and deliver. And I can say to you that you have another 41 vehicles coming before the end of next month. Mr. President, the reality is, whether you like it or not, whether you support it or not, the truth doesn't change whether you're loud or whether you're soft. The truth is that this government has shown, it has demonstrated responsibly that we are going to put our money where our mouth is. We have allocated the money. We have distributed the vehicles. We have increased the capacity for recruiting. We have introduced polygraphing. We have used polymetric tests to raise the standard of individuals entering the force. And Mr. President, I tell you this. I have seen, for the first time in my lifetime, an approach and a leadership when it comes on to our national security. To know that we are not talking about buying vessels to protect our border, but we are now here proudly as senators able to say that we have bought them. To know that we are here no longer speaking about, boy, we have to buy a plane. But we have already put the money down and we are fitting it and we're going to have it to complement the vessels to protect our borders. To know, Mr. President, that we are no longer seeing ministers of national security get up and say, boy, we need money. We're not getting the money from cabinet. But instead, what you're seeing is ministers able to articulate that the money has come and what we are doing with it. The introduction, Mr. President, of the state of emergency is one of the suite of solutions that come together to treat this cancer that we call crime and violence. And Mr. President, I tell you this. The cancer that is crime.
I don't believe it. You bit your tongue. You bit your tongue when you say that.
Mr. President, if my colleagues would allow me, I want to close by saying one thing. There is something very important,
Senator
Mr. President.
Brown, Senator Charles would like to close. I'm sure you'd like that.
In everything that we do, Mr. President, when I was a boy, I remember that I had no option but to do well. I remember speaking to my classmates and saying to myself, but you had an option to fail. There was no option in my house. In my yard, there was just no option, so it never came to me. It wasn't in my brain. Your mentality, the psychology, how you approach life is very important. I listened to some of my colleagues literally support and then crush the same thing they're supporting. Mr. President, there is a colleague among us who has inspired me more this year, I think, than any Jamaican. She is battling what nobody else can understand. There is something that Jamaica must learn from Sapphire Lamore. I remember speaking to her, and her positiveness in confronting what I was scared for my friend, her attitude of defying this evil, her courage in using any means possible to win this battle was more than any chemotherapy, tablet, or any medicine. The minds of our young people and our Jamaicans must be set right. We must assume upon ourselves an attitude like Sapphire. If we do not do that, it doesn't matter how much states of emergencies we have. We are required, Mr. President, to position ourselves not just physically and spiritually, as I've heard Senator Sinclair, but psychologically, mentally. Jamaica must know that we can overcome this cancer. Mr. President, I don't choose my words lightly. I've had family members who have suffered. And I remember also the positive attitude of my grandmother in her battle. And I remember the several things that she had to do. And we are facing this now with crime and violence. Our utterances as the leadership of this country will define how people see themselves. I want to reiterate and reaffirm from my senators, and I'm not just speaking about opposition colleagues, my colleagues on both sides. Join me come on the ground. Let us go and speak to the people. If you speak to them, you would echo what Senator Morrison has said. They are good, decent people who deserve exactly what you would want for your children. If it was our children, would we mind if it was extended? Would we be questioning it? Our question would be, is it working? And the answer to that question is a resounding yes, yes, yes. So I tell you this, Mr. President, for as long as the state of emergency continues to be operated at the level of efficiency and professionalism that I have seen, and for as long as the people who I affirmed to lead and to assist and to guide and to support my Prime Minister in representing, I will continue to support the measures that are protecting our Jamaican people. We must remember what we say and what we do is not only recorded in Hansard. What we say and what we do becomes the platform for those who see us as role models. Mr. President, may we be guided by those leaders among us who have distinguished themselves in their courage and in their determination. That is what is required for us to move Jamaica from where we are to prosperity, if so please you.
Thank you, Senator Charles. Leader.
Thank you, Mr. President. Well, our Friday afternoons never fail to deliver passion and a strong defense of one's beliefs. And the fact that we may differ on certain matters, certainly, I hope, will not prevent us from uniting on a vote to extend the resolutions placed before us today. Mr. President, I want to thank all members who contributed to the debate at this sitting, because it shows that we think seriously about the issues, notwithstanding, as I've said, any differences. I want to just address a couple points, though. One point raised that gave me some concern was the concern that the only way to test the state of emergency success is to lift it. I understand where the point comes from, or where the suggestion comes from, but I think that the government is appropriately balancing the considerations that while we will undoubtedly test the effectiveness when the state of emergencies are eventually lifted, it must be that if the heads of the security forces are saying to you, now is not the time, we are not there yet, if we raise the state of emergency now, if we lift these measures, we cannot guarantee that we will not lose the gains that we have already made. When that is your advice from the professionals, from the persons with the intelligence, from the persons who are on the ground, it can only be a responsible government that would say, we will go to Parliament and we will seek the extension that you need. Now cannot be the time to test for an academic consideration. We must be guided by those who are responsible and for those we hold accountable, because these are the persons that we hold accountable to deliver the results. We have to give them the tools if we're going to hold them accountable. I think one sentiment that has been expressed today is that we have a responsibility to protect the people. Senator Scott Motley said it. Senator Morrison has said it. Others have said it as well, even if the perspectives are different. But I think what we're quite clear on is that the state of emergency in St. Catherine North has saved and is saving lives. Senator Brown, Senator Knight, pardon me, said he was not convinced, said that we should not come with frothy, I believe was his term, frothy arguments. But we have spoken about the disruption of criminal activity, of gang activity. We have spoken about the reduction in murders and shootings by 26%. We've spoken about a reduction in extortion. And I don't view these things as frothy. And speaking about neighbors being able to stand up outside and talk, speaking about children being able to safely go to school and parents safely able to go about their lawful business, the barbers, the stylists, the jerk chicken man, and all the other entrepreneurs that Senator Morrison spoke to us so feelingly about this afternoon. We must protect their lives as well. We must protect their well-being, and we must deliver a society, a community in which they are able to live without fear. And I don't think that those arguments are frothy, Mr. President. Mr. President, on the matter of community policing, Senator Knight said that I was wrong to say that community policing requires community policing cannot be conducted in circumstances which are ripe for a state of emergency. And with all respect, and I hope he's listening, I'm sure he's listening from where he is, I disagree with him 100%. Yes, community policing involves the police ensuring that they become a part of the community fabric. Wonderful. The organizations and the agencies and the committees that form an active and healthy communities activities. But if, as Senator Morrison has described for us, shot is busting in market and the place is a ghost town, the children can't play football, so there is no community club for the police to become a part of. And the community and the police are at war for all intents and purposes, then that is not yet ripe for policing. Community policing is taking place where it is possible and appropriate. But in the jurisdiction where a state of emergency exists, where murders and shooting are still at a level that the police and the soldiers agree is a state of emergency. Of course, people are living, and thank God for that. Thank God for that. But we must do what we can, and we are taking the advice that has been given to us. Mr. President, I don't want to reopen all of the arguments that were put forward today, because others have dealt with most of the salient points that were raised. I just want to ask one more time that we recognize on both sides of this House that acting on the advice of the heads of the security forces, it is the belief of the lower house and of this House. We wish to put forward that the regulations as amended and the resolution tabled be approved today. I thank you, Mr. President. Mr. President, I ask that the motion be approved.
The question is that the motion designated the Emergency Powers Act, Emergency Powers Number 2, continuance, number 2, resolution 2018 be approved. Madam Clerk.
Senator Brown?
Yes.
Senator Brown? He's not here. Senator Charles? Yes. Senator Crawford? Absent. Senator Fraser Binns? Senator Gill? Yes. Senator Hill? Yes. Senator Johnson Smith? Aye. Senator Knight? Senator Knight? Senator Knight? Aye or no, sir? Senator Longmore? Senator Morris? Senator Morrison? Senator Reid? Senator Samuda? Senator Scott Motley? Senator Sinclair? Senator Skeffrey? Yes. Senator Slowly? Senator Webby? Yes. Senator Williams? Mr. President? Yes.
Thank you, Madam Clerk. I do report the vote as follows. 17 ayes, 0 noes, 0 declined to vote, absent 3. The vote is in favor of the motion. Minister.
Thank you, Mr. President. Mr. President, I beg for the recommittal of the agenda item notices of motion given orally.
The question is that the agenda item notices of motion given orally be recommitted. Those in favor? Against?
Mr. President, I wish to give notice that at the next meeting of the Senate, I will move the following motion. The Mutual Assistance Criminal Matters Foreign States Kingdom of Belgium Order 2018 Resolution. Whereas, by virtue of Section 31(2) of the Mutual Assistance Criminal Matters Act, hereinafter referred to as the Act, the Minister may, where any relevant treaty has been made with any foreign state, by order, declare that the provisions of the Act shall apply in respect of such foreign state. And whereas Jamaica and the Kingdom of Belgium are parties to the United Nations Convention Against Corruption 2005 and the United Nations Convention Against Transnational Organized Crime 2000, and whereas on the 8th day of June 2018, the Minister made the Mutual Assistance Criminal Matters Foreign States Kingdom of Belgium Order 2018, declaring that the provisions of the Act shall apply in respect of the Kingdom of Belgium, and whereas it is provided by Section 31(4) of the Act that an order made under that section shall be subject to affirmative resolution, now therefore be it resolved by the Senate as follows. 1. This resolution may be cited as the Mutual Assistance Criminal Matters Foreign States Kingdom of Belgium Order Resolution 2018, and 2. The Mutual Assistance Criminal Matters Foreign States Kingdom of Belgium Order 2018, which was laid on the table of the Senate on the 29th day of June 2018, is hereby affirmed. Mr. President, it is not intended to do any further business today, and I ask that the Senate be adjourned for a date to be fixed.
Just before you do that, Madam Minister, I had indicated that the vote was 17 ayes and 3 absent. It should have read 4 absent. For the record, I wish to correct that. Correct, Madam Clerk? Okay. The question is that the Senate be adjourned at this time for a date to be fixed. Those in favor? Against? This Honourable Senate now stands adjourned.